morning, beloved. Peace be with you. Every group and organization, every family, every company has a value system. So does the kingdom of heaven has a value system. So does God's family. And oftentimes we've heard it said in the scriptures that the values of the kingdom are kind of upside down compared to the world system's values. And we see that today. In our first reading, we see one of a pretty striking value, something that's valued in the kingdom of heaven, in the family of God, and that is to suffer dishonor for the name of Jesus. Notice the disciples here. They went through all of this. They've been preaching and teaching about Jesus. They got arrested and thrown in prison. And now today they get flogged. And important side note to recognize, they didn't get scourged like Jesus did. They got their flogging from the Jews was more like a whipping, which still hurt. But it wasn't a scourging with cat of nine tails, where they take off every bit of flesh of your body so that you can't see any skin, but just pure raw flesh is shown. No, they got whipped, and the point there was just to do a little pain, but so everybody could see the lashes, and you'd be dishonored in public because of the lashing that you got. So they got dishonored publicly for teaching for the sake of the name, and it says they rejoiced that they had been found worthy to suffer. They rejoiced that they had been found worthy to suffer dishonor for the sake of the name. Lots of things to point out here, but the first, this is the value. This is when you know you're worthy of God, when you're suffering for His name. It's a suffering for the sake of His name, because they're teaching about Jesus, speaking about Jesus, proclaiming Jesus, crucified and risen, still healing today, crucified and risen and still healing today. And they, because of this, they're being all these, we call them in the New Testament scriptures, you could call them ministerial sufferings. Sufferings because of the ministry, or sufferings because of the mission, because you're actually participating in the mission of Jesus. This is the only type of suffering that Jesus promised, that said we should expect to suffer this kind of suffering when we are continuing His mission. Every other kind of suffering, we're not to expect. We're not to endure. We're not to go through. Why? Because remember, Good Friday, we looked at Isaiah 53. Every other suffering, He already took from us and was put on Himself. He took it and bore it as a punishment on our behalf so that we wouldn't have to. We're not supposed to be walking around offering up any other kind of suffering except for ministerial suffering because of the mission. Every other suffering He already took 2,000 years ago. He bore it. He dealt with it. It's done. If we hold on to something and think, oh, I'm going to just offer up this cold, for somehow I'm going to help redeem, souls, you can't do it. Your blood's not pure. Only Jesus can suffer for salvation. You and I can't work out salvation for ourselves or for anybody else. It's just very interesting in the New Testament to read through, especially the Acts of the Apostles. Now, in the Gospel, we see the disciples, they do rejoice when miracles are happening and signs and wonders are happening. When they come back from their first mission. Oh, even the demons listen to us. Our children won't listen to us, but the demons do, right? From Pentecost on, you don't see the apostles rejoicing in the signs, wonders, and miracles. You don't see them rejoicing because the demons listen to their name. We see the crowds rejoicing, and they glorify God when they see miracles, or they glorify whoever is their God. They glorify when they see miracles, even if they have pagan gods. Remember, especially with Paul and Barnabas, they thought that this was Zeus in the flesh. They thought their pagan gods had become flesh and were coming around them. The people around who don't really believe are rejoicing when they see the signs. But believers are not rejoicing in the signs. In the Acts of the Apostles, believers are rejoicing when they are found worthy to suffer dishonor for the sake of the name. So there's a shift happening. We want to make that same mindset shift as well. Rejoice when we're found worthy to suffer dishonor for the name. Most of the time, in general, the church at large is probably embarrassed about Jesus. Embarrassed about being in a relationship with Jesus. You might not say that, but your actions say that. If we're afraid to talk to people about Jesus, then that means we're embarrassed about our relationship about Jesus. If we won't go out and witness and talk to Jesus or talk to people, even our friends, our family, our co-workers, or go to the malls, go with their outreach, go feed the homeless and talk to them about Jesus. If we're not talking to people about Jesus because we're afraid of peer pressure, or we're afraid of what they're going to do, we're afraid of what they're going to say, we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid of dishonor for the sake of the name, it's like we're embarrassed to be in relationship with Jesus. This is what our actions are crying out to the world. And if we're embarrassed about Jesus, well, then why would they want to be in relationship with him? And can you imagine, think about honestly how you and I treat and speak about Jesus publicly and with all of our other relationships. And would we want a spouse to treat us that way? Can you imagine if you're supposedly married to somebody, but they never talked about you to their friends, family, co-workers? They were actually, they're afraid if they told people they were married to you, what will they say? If they find out I'm married to you. It's like they're embarrassed to be married to you because they don't want to tell anybody about you. That wouldn't be a very good marriage. Rather, we're supposed to be so caught up in love with Christ that actually people say, what's going on with you? You're glowing. It's like you're in love. And we say, let me tell you about Jesus. There's got to be something you like about Jesus, or you wouldn't be here today. Figure out how to name that one thing that you like about Jesus that's brought you here today. And that's all you have to do. That's all you have to mention to people is that one thing. Because whatever that one thing is, that's the one thing you're living in relationship with Jesus. And so they'll be able to see that in your life, and it'll come across more powerful in your words when you actually put it to words. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it's just hope. Maybe it's healing. What's at least one thing that you like about your relationship with Jesus that you find yourself living consistently every day, and that's all you have to do is share with those around you. That one thing. And it will come across very authentic because that's the thing you're living. You don't have to be theologians. We don't have to be apologists. We don't have to be able to defend the truth or defend the faith or defend any kind of teaching in the church. All you have to do is be able to name and speak why you're in relationship with Jesus and the difference it makes in your life. And it could probably make that same difference in someone else's too. And you hold on to that and you proclaim that. And if somebody rejects you for that, then rejoice, because now you are worthy. You have been found worthy to suffer for the name.